Where's that for you? Hi. As you probably know, I'm Chris from Airwindows, and I am on a mission today because I have a Raspberry Pi unboxing to do. And the purpose of that exercise is to make it... my camera doesn't focus right. I wonder if I can do that with this. Science point 2. Yes, we can. Hi, Immersive. So what, may you ask, is a Raspberry Pi unboxing? I got this in the mail because I have resolved to support Raspberry Pi in my plugins. And so what we're going to do is like drag over this power cable and stuff here. And we're going to set this up. It's a Pi 400 immersive. It's a Pi 400. And I've kind of tried to arrange things as well as I could. Probably Reaper. I've got a copy of Reaper on here, and I'm a registered Reaper user. So I've got a bunch of stuff loaded up on this little SD card, and we'll be monitoring through HDMI here. I've got a little picture-in-picture and stuff ready to go, and we are going to experience getting into... Oh, don't mind me. I'm just juggling some boxes for the stomp box making I mean to be doing. As you know, I have many projects underway. Here's one of them, is making stomp boxes. Here's an aesthetic that might be nice for when I do make them, is they might wind up looking kind of like this. Oh, this is not lacquered yet though. But yeah, my hope is that it'll be a fun little stream and people can sort of sit through the starting up of it, and we'll see how far we get by like 3. That's the hope anyhow, is to be able to... And let me go to a sort of bigger studio cam at the moment. And my idea here is not so much that I intend to be using it in like my studio. That's in flux anyhow. There are changes to be made. But that I'm going to be supporting the plugins on this so that people who don't have an elaborate studio can still make their music and do useful and interesting things with one of these. Like if you can get one of these, with a bit of luck, you should be able to get recording and do stuff. And so I've got a variety of things. I've got some MIDI keyboard controllers. I think I have also grabbed from... hang on. Oh, yep. I've got a little Razer Kaio, which I believe has a microphone in it. This is the microphone here. And I'll see whether I can be able to record to the Pi using an external microphone that runs over USB. Don't know if I'll be able to set it up. This is all going to be very mysterious. Like, I kind of sort of know what I'm doing with some of this, but in a larger sense, that's why I've got the laptop that's going to be kind of my primary machine for any time that I'm on the road. That's open so that I can like solve problems on this. So let us begin with the unboxing part. I never really see the point to this kind of stuff, but I mean, some people seem to like it, and that is how I'm building this. This is my first experience with the Raspberry Pi 4. Let me just scooch my microphone over a little bit. That'd be sufficient. Ta-da! There it is. There it is. Here we are. And what I'm going to do is fish out the other stuff. Being, here's the mouse. Here's the power supply. That's important. And as long as we're doing this, I might as well grab, whatever we've got here. Oh, that's important. This is, it's a USB stick. It's OS. And here's, okay, so we've got some kind of HDMI to smaller HDMI thing. However, oh, I see, we only have micro HDMI ports. So what that's going to mean is I have to unplug a cable and plug another one in, but I can do that. And here is the official Raspberry Pi Beginner's Guide. Comes with a book. Very cool. This is buying the actual kit of it. So that is probably going to be useful, although there's some kind of programming thing in here, which is some kind of weird half-assed scripting language going on. The Airwindows plugins are written in C, technically C++, so we're not going to be so concerned. Although, honestly, this looks a little... No, it's Python. It's Python. So the beginner's guide is starting to tell you how to do things with Python. And that is also stuff that we can... It covers a lot of things here. We're not so much worried about that right now. So that can sit over there. I'm going to hang on to some of this packing material in case I ever need to pass this on. Here's a pro tip. If you don't save packing material for things, sometimes there is a good reason to. Here's an example. I am going to be going through and recycling a whole bunch of Apple gear. And right now, recycling Apple gear gets you fairly decent prices, I believe, because they can't actually keep up with demand for the things that they make and sell. Oh yeah, this is going to be fine. So I'll plug this end here, and then this goes into the Raspberry Pi. And one of the reasons it's not too horrible trying to recycle a bunch of Apple stuff is I saved the boxes that came in, which are sometimes fairly complicated, clever boxes that can reassemble back together again. Sometimes even the cardboard box that it ships in is also kind of fancy. And here we go. Here's our USB power, also with a little twist tie. I don't think anybody ever expects you to keep the twist ties and stuff, but I like doing that anyhow because if somebody is reevaluating the thing that you're trying to recycle for them, and especially with the Apple stuff, they will refurbish some of it, and if that is you, then as I see it, you might want to throw in like the keyboard that it came with and so on, things that are maybe not absolutely necessary, but to my mind will make it more likely, as long as it's in good shape, that they will honor the price they quoted you when they said, oh, we'll give you this much for it, which sometimes can be quite a bit, depending upon how new the thing is. Like if you've got a, well, here's an example. I have an iMac, which is from about 4 computers ago, but it's one of the first Retina iMacs, but it's an old Intel model and so on. They'll still give me $200 for it, which I was pleasantly surprised. Yep, Python, fair enough. And now we will plug this power supply in and have it be ready to go. Here's the mouse. This is sealed for your protection, apparently. There, goodbye seal. And it's in a sanitized plastic bag for your protection too. I bet you this is not a very good mouse, but it's the official Raspberry Pi mouse, so what's not to love about that? There's a thing. It's made to look like the Raspberry Pi does. It's also a very short cable, which is reasonable because the Pi is not very big. And that'll basically fit. And so, next thing that's going to happen is I get up and I plug in this HDMI cable. Excuse me. I have another one kicking around here. This I can hang on to because if I do like coding into the, well, I'll figure out whether I need to hang on to this or not. But this is the one I'm going to want, and it plugs into HDMI 3. Blackmagic stuff is very neat, although it can be problematic. I strongly recommend Blackmagic ATEM Mini switchers for sort of amateur and like casual video makers, because the thing is, it's a very handy thing as far as being able to switch back and forth between cameras, and it's got a lot of cool stuff that you can do, like rescale things on the fly, composite in a higher resolution, like you can bring stuff in at like, you know, 2160p, composite in that with like alpha channels and stuff, and then downsample it down to 1080p for the HDMI output. Or it has a webcam output, but I didn't find that to be as reliable as I would have liked. And thing is, mine sits in a big old heatsink with some of that blue stuff that is a heatsink thermal compound, a heatsink pad, specifically because if you do anything more than the minimum with an ATEM Mini, it can heat up and melt itself, and it starts to go all erratic and misbehave, and so we don't like that. I certainly don't. So let's grab the Raspberry Pi Beginner's Guide and start hooking this sucker up. Let's take the mic sits back here now. So here's what we've got. I'm going to be wanting to plug this in because presumably, well, hang on. I guess this is the way that you adapt it for reprogramming it on actual computers. This is the actual SD card. Boop. It's a little SanDisk. How big is this? 16 gigabyte SanDisk. And we'll put it back in because it ain't going to boot without this. Very handy. We've got a Ethernet port, which is nice. Several different USBs. 2 of them are different colors than the third. I'm not quite sure what that means. I suppose it'll say so in the manual. And this is a power cable symbol. So we're going to drag the power cable up from here and maybe like scooch it under this. And what we have under here is a pinout for the Raspberry Pi's various pins. We have access to that if we remove this little plastic panel, which I'm not going to do right now, because right now we're going to actually read the instructions and get started on this, because I bet you that's the first thing. So it's going to tell me whether I'm supposed to plug in, okay, so USB 2 and USB 3. Now that's a 4 model B, but this is a 400, so I need to find 400 in this book. If it has it, maybe it doesn't. And then the power port is this one, which is kind of like a USB-C, only it's not. That's a different, I'm not really sure what kind of port it is. It is the power supply port anyhow. I wasn't aware that they were in short supply. I had a fairly easy time finding this one. And here is the 400. So GPIO header, micro SD card slot, micro HDMI ports for connection to a monitor. That's going to be this right here. Blue ports are USB 3 ports. And then the non-blue port is a USB 2, which you can connect the mouse to. So blue port's good. White port is what the mouse connects to, because we absolutely do not need super high speed. So we can start with that. Going kind of like this. And we can also plug in one of these HDMI ports. And at this stage, we can scooch over to the black screen, which is the HDMI. And let's see whether we can boot right up by just plugging the power cable in. What do we got? Dun, dun, dun. Well, I don't see it showing anything just yet. This would be a really boring stream if that doesn't work, but I can always unplug it and replug it. I know I am into the 3 port. Here's me. That's the overall view. And that is a HDMI, but I do not know if it is up. Would help if I plugged it in all the way. Now let's see what we've got, if anything. Okay, so the Blackmagic should be able to recognize what this is. Let's try an unplug and replug into a different port, not the one that's closest to the pin header. Does that give us anything? Also, we may have not started the machine up yet. Let's have a little look at that. It'd be kind of interesting if I had to actually load the SD card. I'm assuming it came with a SD card that actually has stuff on it, but it'll slow us down quite a bit if we don't have that. That is something that I can find out about. So getting started. So question is this a card with the OS pre-installed, or do I need to do that? Page 32, setting up the 400. So you got to connect it. Connecting a display. Network cable, not so much of a concern right now. And it came with a SD card in it, but I'm not seeing anything. So let's try redoing the power, because we do have I can't see whether it's asking me to turn on a power button. I am assuming, yeah, it says it'll immediately start running once you plug it in. So we're going to unplug it and replug it, see if it likes the HDMI port closest to the header, and see if it needs to start up again with the HDMI already plugged. And let's make sure that that's plugged in on the other end. It is. So we're going to see whether this can talk to a Blackmagic ATEM. If it can't, we have a problem. Am I planning to buy the new Mac Studio? That's not something that can happen right away. It's not outside the realms of possibility, but I might want to wait until there's a better one. Oh, I see something. We have something showing up on the screen. Boot up, please. It made a effect. There we go. It's doing something. We do kind of have a lot of black screen here too, though. Oh, hello. Welcome to Raspberry Pi Desktop. We're in. Oh, exciting. So this is what we're using. We're using this, and now we're going to see how far we can get by 3. Well, I mean, the Mac Studios are much money for their hardware, but like what I was saying a little bit earlier is I am just going through some of my older stuff and contriving to sell off some of my old Macs. In particular, I'm sending them to Apple to be refurbished or recycled. And I had an old iMac. It was one of the first Retina ones, but it's older and it's an Intel chip and like quite a while ago. And I checked with the Apple trade-in site, and they'll still give me $200 for it. And I saved the box, and if I trade it in, all I got to do is put it back into its box and the shipping box and stuff that it had, and they will send me a UPS mailing label and pay for the shipping. So, like, that gets you store credit, but the stuff hangs on to its money quite a lot as far as store credit is concerned. That's what I'm finding, and that's why it's not outside the realm of possibility for me getting one of the Mac Studios, but I might want to wait until there's an even more amazing one. Oh, if you have the 2010 mid MacBook Pro, they might still give you $100 for it. Like the prices I was getting back from some of these things, and let's not talk about how much they cost to buy going forwards, because buying them new was always rather pricey. But the original Retina iMac, about $200. The 2000 and I believe 19 Mac Mini, which was about the fastest Mac Mini ever made with an Intel chip in it, but pre-M1, that's about $680. It was a 2 gig size, and yeah, I would get that much for trade-in. And the initial M1 laptop, that's like $800. So these things add up pretty quickly. They go towards being able to pay for a more recent one, and that kind of balances out the expense of it. Plus, I find them reliable and just sort of generally enjoy them. But we're going to see whether I also enjoy Linux on the Raspberry Pi. And there's a bunch of things that we can try out, because this has a copy of Reaper that can be installed, and a Reaper project, which is the one that I used on my recent. Let's see. I'll have to plug it into this. No, actually, I could plug it into either of those. And here's a Razer Kaio, which has a microphone involved in it. So, and I'm going to see whether I have sound output through HDMI. Yep, that's the whole purpose of today's stream, as it says on the name of the stream. Here's the Raspberry Pi 400. And we're going to see whether we can make or get started making a full-on Airwindows / Reaper Studio on the Raspberry Pi. Because if that can be done, then you could get it going on one of the ones without a keyboard. So that's getting rolling on all of this stuff for about 40 to 60 bucks. And I really like the sound of that. That is very in line with my values. You know, I may be by Macs guy and really enjoy that kind of stuff, but my life is about making this stuff accessible, and that's what I'm fixing to do. So, what's our first thing here? Like, I have to look at the HDMI screen, and there's stuff I won't be able to see with the Restream overlay, so if I need to change that, I will mute you guys on the screen for the moment. But let's get started. Also, oh wait. Okay, so I can't actually do this without showing people. So let's see. What are the things that I can let anybody know about? I'm in the United States, so that's fine. American English. Time zone. Well, can I type B or N for New York? No. No, that's a Mackie kind of thing. You got to scroll it. We got to scroll that one. It probably only has one city per time zone. UI is always an interesting challenge with this kind of stuff. You know, well, Linux can be a nightmare with Pro Audio, but I will be finding that out, won't I? And I have a bit of a head start. I've got a little note here. Oh, I got a little note here that is a problem that people can run into getting started with Reaper on Raspberry Pi for the first time. So we'll see. Now, time zone. I don't like the feel of this mouse very much, but that's fine. It's not the quickest thing in the world, but that's fine. Setting location. Let's use the default thing. I'm going to make a little note of that for myself. And lowercase. So, oh, hide characters. Gee, I wonder if that is going to work. Hey. We got a secret password. Okay, so now I do have a password on that, and I didn't actually give it away to the entire world through video. The desktop should fill the entire screen. Well, it's got a bit of a black box. Let's see whether that changes everything. Oh, it'll take effect when the Pi was restarted. I'll worry about that later. Having a little black border doesn't worry me too much. Searching for networks. It's probably going to find mine. I will see whether, yep. Let's see whether we have hide passwords. Yes, we do. So we should be able to plug into the Wi-Fi, and that'll be like more interesting things to do even if we don't have Reaper going right away. Ooh, okay, well, let's find out. I'm not sure how large a download it is. I've got a fairly decent bandwidth here, although I am streaming, but streaming is uploading, downloading is separate, and I've got about equal amount. Error checking for updates. Okay, welcome to Linux. See the apt secure what is tiny? I mean, the new Pi is tiny. I've actually got a Reaper install on a SD card for this very purpose. So this is something that we're going to deal with later, because we did not... Oh, fair enough. Well, we weren't able to do it anyhow because Linux. So, to run applications, and also let us hide... Hang on. I am going to take a moment and just make your chat slightly more transparent. In fact, one thing I can do also is take away that, and then let's make you Luma keyed. Now I can kind of sort of see what I'm doing. It'll interfere a little bit, but I can get away with this because I do actually need to be able to see, or okay, you live here now. Or no, wait, you live here now so that I can see the controls. All right, back to our controls. And yeah, I might be, you know something? Better there. Yes, in fact, it's so much better there that I'm not sure I need to have it be as transparent as it is. So let us do this. And then with a better luck, I can see what's going on here still, but I can operate the controls of this. Here we go. Yeah, the feel of this mouse is weirdly floaty. We got Mathematica, we got a programmers, we've got Java, we've got Scratch and Scratch 2. We've got a hat emulator. I know what hats are. Those go into the pinout on the back. Let us quickly see what we have in sound and video, or graphics. Okay, not much. Oh, hello, Minecraft Pi. Now here my question is, does this make a sound? Let's turn on the speaker and see what we got. We'll create a new world in the Pi Minecraft. That's going to be like Doom eventually. And that totally works. And this is definitely the mobile version. Beep. So, escape, and nope, it is supposed to be making sounds. So clearly what I have yet to do here is set up sound in some way, but that's just VLC Media Player. So Pi Diagnostics, Text Manager, Jack. Jack is how this stuff is going to be sound routed. My hope is that I can run this into, because I see no headphone out, I see no audio out of any kind other than through the HDMI. And this HDMI ought to be able to send audio through. I've got it set up so that it could. And in theory, it should work. Let me take a moment, and you won't see this, but I'm firing up the ATEM controller, and let's have a look at audio while I do some of this stuff. I am seeing no sign that it's made any kind of noise of any kind. So we'll go back to, or no, wait. Okay, so sound and video, VLC media player. I do not know if any of this is set up or whether I gotta get the sound working somehow. And I don't believe there's any media, although I can bring one in. Let's quit that. For this one, I'm pretty sure that that's going to quit that. And, okay, so desktop preferences. This is terminal. This is going to be a file manager. That's a web browser, but we don't necessarily have audio. And it doesn't seem to have anything that should have asked to post a link. Okay, well, I don't. Right now, I'm not in a position to, if your links aren't posting, I can't fix that right now. I'm going to figure this out instead. So let's see. File Manager, Diagnostics, that'll be interesting. Does it have anything to do with audio? Nope, that is only a SD card speed test. So maybe not so much. Preferences. I don't see audio settings, but I see Pi configuration. What have we got here? So there's our host name. We're logging in basically as admin. Although that might not be root. This might not be admin. It might be a pre-set up, because it's routine on Unix systems that you don't necessarily log in as root all the time. You log in as another user, and if you need to do stuff, you'll go sudo and take the privileges of root if you can. A splash screen, no, that's fine. Display overscan, that's what this is. This will restart on reboot. So we can that's probably fine. Pixel doubling. Okay, how about maybe not? Oh yeah, there's no okay, so you can't send audio over HDMI? That's interesting. So it only does Bluetooth. Well, in that case, this is less interesting, but not necessarily. Yeah, so Lovely Shrubbery, if you know all about this stuff, maybe you can get us going with some of these things. Fan. Oh, I don't have that. It's a fan on a GPIO pin, but I don't have a pin. This is just the base device here with its little vents. And actually not very many vents, but it probably doesn't need them. And localization. Okay, so, all right, let's reboot. Boop. So the next thing we're going to do is start trying to get audio going, and I'll probably want to, yeah, I mean, if you'd like to search, this is like a Raspberry Pi 4. It's just the 400. It's built into a keyboard. So this is the kind of stuff that people will need to know about. And I get that having a interface on a USB 2 is relevant, but I don't have anything that'll operate that way right now. I've got a interface that could run off of a USB. Well, actually, no, that is a USB 3 port, isn't it? It's a USB 3 port with like a USB 1 pinout. In fact, shouldn't it have multiple connections there? No matter. So here we are again, and let's try. Here's our file manager. And now we're going to plug in this and see what kind of stuff, what kind of trouble we can get into. Yes, I want that to be opened in File Manager, please. And away we go. So what we can do is let's copy all of these things over to here. I'm not sure how long that's going to take. Looks like it'll take a bit. But if we have that, then presumably we can build the Reaper for the Pi. Cliff Diver is audio, so we can see whether it runs a fairly extensive project, which I guess we'll find out. And then VST Build is where the plugins live. So whether or not we have anything that lets you actually hear audio output from this thing. And again, I'm going to be interested in knowing whether you can use Jack, which is how Reaper talks to Linux, whether you can use Jack to patch audio to HDMI audio out, because I'm monitoring that. And if you can, I won't necessarily be able to hear it myself, but I'll be able to stream the output. And that's more important right now. So our copying is going fairly well. We got quite a bunch of things going on in Cliff Diver. Cliff Diver is the recent track that I used as a demo. I mean, it's Linux, everything is theoretically possible. The question is, has somebody done a thing where Jack can route audio to the HDMI out? And of course, do I even have Jack installed on this machine? Because I may not have Jack installed on this machine. And so just for now, I'm going to quit back out of ATEM software control, because that wasn't actually the issue. The issue was it doesn't necessarily understand the concept of an audio out in any sense. And here is our VST build for the plugins. Technically, this would be able to actually work right from the get-go, assuming I haven't missed something with regard to stuff that needs to sit in the build folder, but I wouldn't imagine, because usually you can delete the folder that says build and go from scratch and it'll regenerate it and then refill it. Cliff Diver is my Reaper stuff, and this contains so let's open this in VLC Media Player. And we do not have audio, but it's attempting to play a 96K track. And oh, it is totally playing. Okay, I just can't hear that. But one thing I could do, hang on. Advanced audio properties, audio monitoring. Oh yeah. Oh, using the wrong mouse to click. Alrighty, good start. I can get HDMI out, and I can also monitor it, meaning that I can stream it and monitor it. Good, 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 good. This is a darn good start. So here's the next question. Let's eject our volume. Yeah, that is a Moog subfatty. Technically, it's a Moog subfatty running into a phase 90. And the reason it sounds the way that it does is because the headphone jack is routed through a flanger / chorus pedal back into the external input. So it does a bunch of things. And we're just playing it back on Linux, just hunky-dory and fine, even though it's a 96K file. So, what's next? Let's install Reaper. Opening archive. Alrighty then. Good, good. Now, is this also another little file manager window? Like if I double click on this, oh look, readme Linux text. Let's see if I can open it from here. I can. So it requires, oh, I've got it Raspberry Pi 2 or later, no question about that. I think I've probably got these libs installed, and it's probably going to need Jack. I might already have that, and I'm going to do install Reaper sh. Oh, yeah, mousepad does not scroll things, so it's a Raspberry Pi 400, yeah. Here, I show. It is one of these. So that's what we're using. Although again, if this works, then probably other Raspberry Pi 4s would work too. And let's see. I gotta expand this window in order to be able to read the things in it, because Linux. How do you expand the window? That's how you do that. There is no corner for expanding it in both directions at once, but that's fine. We'll just expand it in this direction. I don't know how to extract the archive to a folder. What I'm looking at is this. I don't think we have any tooltips. That's just moving stuff around. Open an archive. I think I've already just done that. Create a new archive. No, don't want that. And here's probably add files to the archive. Extract files. There we go. Yeah, well, I mean, this is Linux being Linux, so extract files. I'm going to guess that I need to select all of those. So let us shift-click, and let us extract these files. Extract them to temp. I could, I suppose. Extract them with full path. Yeah. Selected files. Okay, so I didn't need to select them, but that's all of them. And okay, so I know where to find those if it turns out that's what I need to do. They went to temp. That might have been it. Or not. Are we still processing? Is anything happening? Let's go into this folder. What have we got here? Okay. So that is a thing. Now let's go back using the back arrow and see if we can run install Reaper from here. It seems to be an executable. Sure does. Execute it. Execute it in terminal. It's a shell script. Now what happened? And we got this going on. Okay, let's quit out of mousepad for the moment and try to find out what happened here. Archiver continues to not show me what's happening or any status of either that or it's going so fast. It's an LED light. If it's flashing, Xarchiver is busy. I can't tell whether it's on or off. Maybe it is still busy. Oh, and I have ejected the... We can now unplug this, because I believe it has done its job, unless it hasn't. All right, there's home. And I should be able to see temp. There it is. So we've got a bunch of stuff in here, all right? Okay, well, let's run this again. Presumably this put reaper somewhere that I can get at it. I wonder if it's showing up in menus anywhere. It's not smart enough to put itself in sound and video. In fact, I'm not sure there's anywhere that this will actually show up with unless I physically put it where it's supposed to be. So, but here's something that I wanted to try. Now that we have sound, let's see whether I can actually hear what the Minecraft Pi is doing. That's assuming it makes a noise. Well, that doesn't make a noise. I do not think it has audio, although it's supposed to. Yeah, no sign that it's trying to do audio. Okay. Just out of curiosity, Alt-Q? Nope. No screenshots. Escape to get back to this, and its audio is not routed correctly. That's fine. Let's go back to some of these other things, and we will try to run it in terminal in case there are prompts. So temp is where that was. So can we drag this onto the terminal like as if it was in macOS? No, we can't. Can we copy path? Yes, we can. That's what we want. Therefore, now let's see whether Alt or Control V is paste. Nope. Let's see if there's an edit menu. Shift Control V is what I'd need to do. Alrighty, so we got there. It's just more cumbersome than one would normally have it be. Now let's see what we've got. Very good. Install Reaper, I. Good. So we can run this again. Firstly, we'll do Shift I, because I see that's a capital letter. And I'm going to assume that it's going to be verbatim. Require sudo password entry. I believe that's going to be hidden. We can install it to home. There's no reason not to, I think. Desktop integration? Why, yes, in fact, I would. Oh, I bet that wants a capital letter just because I see it being a capital letter. Let's do the lowercase and see if it understands. Hey, it did. I bet desktop integration means there's an icon on the desktop. Now page up means we get to run the script again. Oh, it just asked me whether I wanted that. So now A would be doing the same thing that I just did. And I do not see a Q or a quit, so we're going to quit the terminal window, and that should stop whatever it was that was in there. Or at least on macOS, if you quit a terminal window, it stops any processes that were running in there. It should be done, and we may or may not have a desktop integration. We have a trash folder. Does that mean it did put itself in sound and video. Good baby. And we run it, and I do not know whether it's going to be configured to make sound, but there's going to be menus in here. And I'll worry about the license fee at some other time because I am a Reaper owner. So we're going to call it still evaluating for now. And we're not going to bother checking for new versions at the moment. We're going to close that, and we're going to tell it still evaluating. It's lovely the way they do that, and we have an error right away. Jack error creating client. Okay, so let's see what we get here. Audio device. Everything is opening underneath the windows and things. So here's one of the things. I have no intention of doing VST3 plugins. I would like to see Steinberg continuing to support VST2, and in fact, these are going to be VST2s. I don't know what Decimort is. And yeah, I'm not going to be able to follow chat that well if you get real chatty, but I will try to do this, and here's one of the things. It says prefs audio device auto start jack D. So I probably will want to use that. And the launch command blank is libjack. I'm going to assume that that's fine. I don't have any details here on what you should put in there. Input channels and output channels and audio system. We are going to want jack. I don't have any MIDI devices, although it's possible I can make some. And we're going to apply that, quit, and then restart. So let's quit out of here. And then you know what? Let's open. Do I have a file menu? Nope, I don't. I would assume that the right click lets you open a file menu, but that is not the case. But I do have a file manager thing up here, so there's that anyways. And we will now see whether if I open up the clip driver Reaper file, will this launch Reaper, or is that something that we can't do on Linux? It does launch Reaper. Hey. Yeah, and the effects aren't doing anything because I haven't compiled them. And I doubt that Airwindows Juice Tie is going to work on a Raspberry Pi. That's far too heavyweight. But we have got a track without any effects in it because they don't work. And if we hit play, oh god, that's really loud. We have working digital audio workstation in Reaper fairly quickly and easily. I would say that wasn't that hard to get there. I did have to put in the auto start jack D, and we don't have any of my plugins yet. But here's the thing. Oh yeah, check it out. Some of my guitar tones and things. That is a section, not the most responsive thing in the world, but damn, the fact that it can do this at all. And let's... this on a pretty stock Raspberry Pi 400, meaning that you could probably also do it on the Raspberry Pi 4 if you had some of these things already. I don't have a way to track to this, so let's jump into some of that stuff where we're talking about and we have no plugins yet, so this is just everything that was tracked. Where's close button? Close button. Do not save. So yeah, I would say that was a pretty good start for first hour of streaming. Cliff Diver plays back on a Raspberry Pi. And of course, the way this kind of stuff works, if I can get the plugins to work, and they wind up being, let's take a quick moment and fire it up and see what the default VST location is going to be. Because if we can build these, we can put them there. And yeah, and I'm also curious as to whether I can use this as a microphone and have Reaper understand what it is, because I don't have any other microphones with like USB cables. I tend to have studio microphones which don't come with USB cable outputs, but if I can make it play back and it'll run the plugins, that means that I could be doing the same caliber of work that I am doing on any of my desktop stuff or the Apple laptop, and there's a bit of a price difference there. So this is kind of what we're after. And I'm very unworried as to whether anything else even works in audio, because it's like, okay, let's rely on this for what it is. Oh, the Focusrite Solo works reasonably well, plug and play. That's good to know. There's a lot of stuff that's good to know. I actually have a Motu. Hang on. Thing is, I don't think I have the cable that'll work with it. I could, but I really couldn't tell you whether it's the right one. Hang on. In fact, no. Wait. No. Don't mind me looking for a wire. No, I don't think. No. Mm-mm. Okay, guys, I got a Motu. In theory, that might work, but it needs USB-C. It needs this kind of cable, and the Pi doesn't have that kind of cable output. it would need to change the USB-C to the USB-A style connector. And I don't think I've got that, so can't use that. But what I was going to do before I went grabbing for stuff is project setting. No, not project settings. Preferences. Maybe that is project settings. Okay, so hardware default will be used. We're probably interpolating everything from 96K, which is kind of tiresome, but I do have a project sample rate set. So, I mean, it played. Whatever it's doing, I think it was resampling, which is kind of impressive considering that it's resampling all of those tracks on the fly and still playing fine. Media, waves, yes, fine. Video, not worried about that. So this is not what I was looking for. I was looking for, maybe it's under options, preferences. There it is. So where is expecting to find VSTs? Here we are. So VST plugins, we're talking about it looking for VST3s. I'm a little concerned about that. Compatibility, what have we got? Okay, that's not really so much of a concern. I feel like it should be able to do VST2s, although maybe there's some special way of doing it. I'm not absolutely certain. See, it says VST. When it says VST, it's probably talking VST2s. When it says VST3, it should be talking about something else. And they all are supposed to have generic UI, because these are the ones I make. And oh, I see what's going on here. See this? This is not just one line. This is either pi/VST or pi/VST3. Those are multiple paths. It will take VST2s if I make them. Thing is, it's expecting them to say VST rather than .so. And the stuff I've been compiling tends to say .so. But still, home/pi/ well, but I'm making native Linux VSTs. I've been making native Linux VSTs for ages. Okay, let us, I'm not so concerned about having Windows VSTs. If you could use those, then I could just do them. I'm going to be compiling SO. And let us just step out of here. I know it's not looking for the exact path I had in mind, but I can punch in a custom path. So let us go into the build folder. And now let's see what we get. I see no open terminal here. That's unfortunate. But I can open terminal, and I can copy the path. Yes, I can. So this is how you copy paths in Raspberry Pi. And then, although I can't right-click it, because there's no edit things in the right-click, I can do the edit menu and paste. Although what I really kind of need to do there is CD, and then that. Okay, now that I'm in the build folder, the way you build the Airwindows plugins, assuming everything else is as it should be, and I copied over all of the stuff that I needed to build. Yep. Let's see whether this works. this works, it'll be very exciting. If it does not work, then we may or may not do this today, but this is what I'll have to get working in order to have this go. CMake command not found. Okay. So we got a little bit of prep to do here. So let's see. This is not going to help me any longer, nor do I probably need to make notes. This book is probably not going to help me either. I don't think this is going to set me up with CMake. I don't think this is going to set me up with the proper C. It's going to try to do everything in Python and like Babby languages. So let's not go there. I'm just going to grab my fancy laptop that I normally live my life on, and I'm going to use this for some searching. Install CMake on Raspberry Pi 400, which is the thing I'm fixing to do. Oh, okay, well, I'm willing to try that, lovely shrubbery. I am assuming we do have a bunch of things going on here. Alrighty. Now, is it apt-get or is it just apt? You're describing it as just apt. I'll try it the way that you had it. Maybe that's how we do it. Alrighty, I can't read all of that. I need to resize it. Hopefully it will draw properly once I do. All right. Yep. Just a moment. I'm going to move the chat window over here. I don't think I need the stuff in this corner. Well, I'll cover up a little bit of myself. There we go. I'm going to need more of your remarks. Alrighty. So repository changed its value from stable to old stable. Okay, I'm willing to go along with that. That sounds like the correct thing anyway, so why? I guess if that's not just a repeat, let's just keep saying why and see if it gets me anywhere. Alrighty. So we are off and running. We are doing the update first. Now, the nice thing about this type of stuff when it's working properly, it certainly works that way in Homebrew on the Mac, is that when you're installing stuff, it'll install dependencies that it needs. So we're doing the apt update, and I'm game for going with build essential first. If that doesn't give me CMake, I can sort of go from there. Wow, that's a lot of packages that can be upgraded. Let's apt upgrade it too. Not sudo, sudo. Because I'm inclined to believe that oh boy. So we're going to need a little bit of space, but that's probably fine. I'm assuming that the funniness with shift status is relevant, but I could be mistaken. And lots of these are just little tiny things. So it does need to get a bunch of archives, but this is fine. This is how the world of Linux works, and it's more about whether, it's not about like, I mastered this, I know exactly what's going to happen at any moment. It's more about being able to adapt to stuff that goes on the fly. And that is not so unusual. There's actually a lot of stuff out there that works that way, including in Mac development and professional development. A lot of people find it that people will react as if you are very knowledgeable and you really know all of your stuff, and that's not necessarily the case. People will sometimes just look confident because they know they can kind of grapple through whatever is going on and reach the end of the process. And it's not so much about expecting that people who have this confidence know everything going in. It's more like they're able to adapt. Now let's see. How are we doing? That's going to go for a while. So tell you what, I'm going to go and throw another log on my fire because it was chilly this morning. And or maybe not. Maybe it's fine. Yeah, I actually think that's probably fine. So let me entertain you in other ways while we are waiting for things to install. Tuner. Oh, the default option is the capitalized. Okay. Yeah. Guitars. Yeah. So our updating is coming along fairly well here. I'm not sure it's giving me time estimates. Oh, it's updating Wolfram. It's updating everything. I guess it's claiming there's about 6 minutes left. That's fine. So yeah, I can drink the last little bits of my coffee. And we can talk about stuff. So yeah, the interesting thing about this process is and I don't think I would necessarily have updated all of these things if I had chosen to, but it seemed like, okay, let's update everything and see where we get. The interesting thing about doing this is the capacity of getting tools into people's hands that, like, I don't know if it's not quite 2:30 in the afternoon yet, so I got about a half an hour to see how this goes, and we sure are downloading a whole bunch of things, but that seems fine. They are indeed files grandes, and it's those dev tools I'm looking for. Let's find it on the because apparently I can do apt install cmake, having just done update and upgrade. So let me do a little of my searching on the main machine. And it was what, build tools? I mean, so you mentioned something with regard to what I should be looking for, and I'm not finding it, but I'm trying to remember what you said, because I could just install CMake just by itself, but I feel like there's more involved than just that. So the thing I was told back in the scroll on chat, which I can no longer see, if you can say it again, I'll write it down, but I'm going to be trying to find that. If I'm reminded what it was, then I will have some idea. Oh, build essential. Okay, build essential. I just saw it, and I saw it from you at the same time. Good, good, good. Oh, hello. What happened? Did we crash? That shouldn't happen. Well, I'm going to write that down anyway. Okay, the Pi screen just went dead. Let's try to get it back. I'm not sure whether I need to restart or whether something else happened, but oh boy, yeah, we were just running terminal and it just went splat and went down. Mind you, I see that it's still on, And that is a matter of some concern, I suppose. I don't see it restarting, though. Oh, no, hey, there it is again. Alrighty, now it says just 2 minutes out. Maybe the graphical... Yeah, I mean, it was doing something. What was it doing? It was unzipping ARMHF and Ruby and Python 3. It came back. So, okay. And now it's just trying to do the Wolfram engine. I mean, I'm not sure why it would have a battery saving feature when it's on a power supply. That seems weird. Oh. Camera back. So yeah, it's a I'm writing down sudo apt update and sudo apt upgrade. And then CMake just in case we need to do it specially. So yeah. Alrighty. Because you see, the other part of this is I have to be able to talk people through this process. And the tricky thing is that you also need to have some of the VST2 files from their dev kit to be able to build this stuff for yourself. Now, I think the way that that works is you wouldn't be able to distribute them if you didn't have a license. But I have a license, and so I feel that I can distribute them. YA Bridge and KX Studio, fair enough. Now, are these audio processes, or are they like stuff that runs in the... Because I'm going to be interested in what you can get as far as soft synth and things are concerned. Those aren't necessarily stuff that I have myself. Yeah, and we already have Reaper, so don't need to apt install that. Oh, LibreOffice, all of this stuff. Well, it's getting done. It's finishing up. I will write down the YA Bridge and KX Studio. KX, sorry. Yeah, and telling you, yeah. That is true, because one thing about it is if they are not me and don't have a USB stick with the Reaper installer on it, then that is what they would be using. So that seems fair. Oh, the second thing is counting up now. Or at least was for a moment. Let's see how we're doing. Reading change logs. I think we're getting about ready to go. It's busy reading to itself. Yeah, you go and do that. So Build the Central doesn't necessarily have CMake, but I'm going to install it first. Should it have the Y flag? I'm seeing something on a lindevs.com. It's talking about sudo apt install build essential, but it's saying apt install -y build essential. So I'm not quite sure what the Y flag means on apt. Well, I can search that. apt install -y flag. What does that mean? And that's aptitude, which is the Debian package management tool. So here's a big old, very bad thing that is not answering my questions. Apt flags, word for apt flags. Okay, we do have a list of flags that do not include Y. Okay, alrighty then. Ultimate guide to techniques. So why was that person suggesting that I should have the Y flag when it's not being included here? And we're still reading changelogs, so whatever. The ultimate guide to apt and apt-get commands turns out not to be as much of a, Ubuntu man page, how about? I still don't see a Y flag. The heck? Okay, we're going to ignore that then because I don't see any reference to it. Fine. The instructions telling me how to install Build Essential are relatively meaningless because that doesn't make any sense. We're getting closer to finishing the changelogs though. Big old very bad thing. Yeah, that's Linux for you. The thing is, it's a big old free, infinitely configurable, and limitless thing, as well as being very bad. It's sort of all of the above. And hey, WebKit to GTK. Alrighty, well, press Q to quit. Now it's extracting things. And now we're trying to install things, and this could be taking me for a while. I mean, if this goes past 3, I will call a halt to it for the day. We'll see how long this takes. Arguably, updating everything might have been a mistake, but the thing is, I couldn't really be sure as to whether there's stuff in there that's going to need to be updated, so it's kind of like the correct thing. And it's not taking too much space that won't be freed up again later. In fact, it should show on free space, assuming that that background window is getting updated, which is not necessarily going to be the truth. But we're setting up, we've got apt updated, we've got all these things updated. Seems good. Oh, we've got a Chromium. That Chromium is actually what I run on macOS. And I'll tell you why. It's because it doesn't update itself. Regular Chrome, it will change things on you without asking, because that's just, oh, we're updating. Our buttons have different logos on them now. You must like that, yes? And I'm like, no, I don't. Yeah, I think the install would free space that was taken up by the downloads. I don't think it's necessarily giving me more space. Certainly not the amount that it claimed. Piker kernel hack, interesting. Oh, RPi kernel hack. Overlays. So there's a bunch of stuff there, but I'm not quite sure what they are. Diversion of, it says. With a bit of luck, it'll finish this stuff out. We will see how this goes. Gamma, welcome to working in terminals and things. Like, it's not that different on Homebrew, except for that when I'm running on, like, Macintoshes, they're a lot beefier than a Raspberry Pi, so they're able to churn through a lot of this stuff faster. The download speed is about the same. But yeah, this is kind of, I mean, on the bright side, with something like this or something like Homebrew, it can at least figure this stuff out, and you have a fair chance of having it figure all the things out and then coming out with something that works. Although, I should say, when I have been installing, when I've been building Linux plugins, there was a time when the plugins that I built, I let the virtual version of Linux that I'm running on my development machine, I let it have access to the internet, and it saw the internet through Wi-Fi. And when I ran it that time, it seemed to update itself in some kind of way, and then it was able to recompile everything at blinding speed rather than taking forever to do it. And it recompiled everything at blinding speed, and then the plugins didn't work anymore. So I became a little suspicious, and I rolled it back, and I don't let it talk to the internet anymore. And that is the regular Linux VSTs that I developed. This is using all of the most recent stuff that it would have updated to, so there is a risk that if I get through all of this stuff, and in the next 20 minutes or so I actually get to recompile the plugins, it's possible that they simply won't work. Because there was that one instance where I had let it upgrade itself, and it upgraded itself to a state where it must have considered that stuff had been built already, and so it was checking to see if things were built, and then for whatever reason it turned a working system into not working stuff without any intervention from me. I did nothing but just do the process over again. So that is something of a concern. It's possible that it'll do that to me again. I don't know. But we shall see. This is just a thing where we're going to be sitting through this because it's running, and so if we get to the end by 3, I will walk through the compiling the stuff, and if not, I'll end the stream, and I'll tell you later whether it worked, because this is kind of in don't know whether this is going to work mode. But yeah, if you've got any questions for me while I'm hanging out, obviously I have nothing to do but wait for the stuff to unpack. I shouldn't need the big laptop at the moment, although I'm going to be needing it very, very soon, because I am in the process of going through basically all of my Intel Macs and sending them back to Apple for store credit. And that includes the desktop, and that's something that I might be doing later this afternoon, because that gives me basically until Sunday to figure out what I'm doing and have streaming with OBS working on the laptop that you just saw. And until I have that sorted out, well, it's kind of tricky, because it's like, okay, I need to get this sorted out. I'm going to be moving stuff around and packing stuff up and so on. But it does kind of depend upon me being able to get up and running on the new machinery, which is, as powerful as the desktop that I'm running on. But I'm just kind of watching for whether there's like hidden gotchas in there. And we shall see. The point being that oh, it's moving. It's moving. Project progress 16%. Good. You keep going. Might be worth doing. Yeah, I'll write that down, because I might not be wanting to do that after the update. Because if I can get the update done, which may or may not happen in time to do some of these other things. Let me write that down anyways. That said, it doesn't sound like that would take much time to run, so that's probably fine. We are at least moving. And it doesn't, I'm not sure whether this is actually going to take hours. It seems like this has taken about half an hour, maybe, if that. I got a fairly decent connection here, so it's at least able to download the stuff it needs. We shall see. And yeah, I can be using other computers, or I can play guitar for you or something. One thing about how this is working is that it is going to be building Pi versions of everything. It's going to be building ARM versions of everything. But yeah, my plans are to go entirely over to, in fact, I have a bunch of plans, actually. Like some of this stuff that you see behind me, I've decided that I'm going to try to sell off the lower of the racks. The upper one is the portable one. That's the one that I could take with me, or I can put in storage or whatever. The one below it was what I started with. And I can fill it up with like Moog stuff and take it to a local music store and offer to sell it. I can work out like how much all these bits are, and then just go, okay, would anybody like to buy that? And if they buy it, then the Moog semi-modular stuff goes foof. A bunch of dope fur. There's a couple of make noise contours in there that are interesting in their own right. There's 3 WMDs. There's a couple of O-coasts in there as well. And it all adds up to a, synthesizer object that you could put in a store and offer to sell to people. And since I'm going to be, and away goes the Pi again. I wonder what that's about. Well, it woke back up again the first time. I'll talk to you for the moment, and then I'll check back on it in a moment and see whether it came back. But yeah, the idea there is I need to get stuff so that it can be more portable, so that it's not so much here, because I might not be living here forever. I might be sort of more on the road kind of thing, and that could be interesting in its own right. So I want that upper one with the stuff that's blinking in there. That's like my live rig and also a composing rig. So I can write stuff in the NerdSeek, and I can also make stuff happen that's like techno-style things in a number of interesting ways. And it's got my chords, it's got my bass, it's got a bunch of the different, like it's got my hi-hats and a couple of different kick drums and samples for the Airwindows production kick and snare. So there's a bunch of stuff that I can do in there, and the stuff underneath is sort of extra, it's sort of superfluous. And although it's great, I can also like take a certain amount of loss on it, but then try to sell it. And the thing is, since I can store that more easily, and that's more cumbersome, I'm probably going to be fixing to store that in a local music store on consignment for a reasonable price. And then the question becomes, does anybody have even a reasonable price for that kind of stuff at the moment? If so, they'll be able to buy it. It'll be retro music and keen, if they're good for it, if they're okay with me doing that. They're generally okay with consigned things. And the watchword there will be, no, I will not part it out, because I'm trying to sell everything, including the case, not necessarily just the stuff in it. And if somebody was to buy it, they'd probably be able to part out the individual things and make a small amount of money off of reselling the individual things that they got out of the case and then reselling the case. But they would have to go through all the trouble of, like, here, let's see if this is back. Nope, not just yet. They would have to go through all the trouble of like getting boxes for everything, all of that kind of stuff. I'll have a big old box with all of the stuff that goes into it. And everything that I had, in other words. And I guess I will just see. And unlike the Apple stuff, if I sell that on consignment at a local music store, we'd both get money from it rather than just store credit. And we'll see. But that is something where if I am away from home, the question is, what are you going to do for security in like your house or whatever? And one of the things I'm doing is all these Macs and things that I've got. It's like, okay, let's send them all to Apple and get store credit for those. And then they can't go away from my house because they are literally being turned, being evaluated by Apple and rethought. I wonder whether the Raspberry Pi will wake up again. Hello, it's still on, as near as I can tell, but okay, so screensaver, huh? I wonder what would happen if... Oh, okay. Hey, we got there. It finished. All right, so I'm gonna have to deal with that. I do not like this screensaver going to black screen. But that was nice that I was able to get back out of it by wiggling the mouse. Good. Now, what next? Let's do sudo apt clean. Not sudo, thank you. This keyboard is not fully optimal. This should be quick. Sure was. Build essential. We're going to be wanting that. Yeah, like I'm going to be looking to... Oh, hello. You didn't like it. Oh, we've already got it. Cool. All right, then let's do CMake. Have we got that? Nope, we don't. I do indeed want to continue. And it doesn't need the case to be the same. Fair enough. So off we go. This is a small thing. I think I probably already do... Oh, what do I plan to do with it? This. Moment of truth. Let's see if this works. Hello. Warnings, no errors. I don't think those are... I guess we'll find out. Yeah, you are watching what I got this for on stream. The 4 of you that are still here. This is building the Raspberry Pi Airwindows binaries. This is building the Raspberry Pi VSTs, the ones that run on the ARM processor. The previous ones did not, but if we can get this all built, I can put out a downloadable for all of this like right away. It does appear to be trying to build this stuff. I don't know that that's true, but I will know if it's true when I install them or when I tell Reaper where to find these plugins that I've just built. And then if it plays back my sample file with the Airwindows plugins included, and you'll be able to hear very plainly if it has or if it has not. It's going to take a long time to build Pocket Verbs, I'll tell you that. And it would have to do it really fast because in about 9 minutes I'm going to go off stream. I realize that is frustrating, but all of the update stuff ate up a bunch of time. But looky there. Observe the building of the Airwindows files. If this works, these are the plugins that we will use. PocketVerse takes so long to compile because there's way too much code in it. It is an annoyingly huge amount of code in that one. When I did the recent maintenance of the code, a number of things happened. One of them was that I made everything operate on on doubles rather than long doubles, because it turned out that the superfluous data for the long doubles was more than was necessary. It was going from like millions of times better than using floats to millions of billions of times better than using floats. And I've done downloadable tracks on the most recent things on SoundCloud, I believe, where you can hear what it sounds like using floats versus doubles and also versus long doubles. And in my opinion, the long doubles and doubles sound the same. The other thing that got changed was my use of the random function was changed across the board to be the pseudo-random function that I use for the dithering to floating point on 32-bit. And that is something that improves things hugely on Linux systems, because the Linux systems have a special form of rand that is more like cryptographically accurate kind of thing, but also blocks audio threads. So you really can't be calling Linux rand multiple times a sample. It will grind everything to a halt. So I've switched over to using a more appropriate one, and that also was across the board. That was for literally everything that was subject to that concern. So yeah, and yeah, there's native Linux ones. You can download them. You don't be embarrassed about using the bridging software. That's perfectly fine too, whatever works. But I did make a point of making these. There's going to be these on x86 is what they're compiled for, to the best of my understanding. Compiled on a x86 virtual Linux box that runs in an emulator. And this is running almost as fast as that, but it's in native. So these are going to be ARM builds. And yeah, I might be able to stretch a little bit depending upon how this goes. We'll see what it looks like. It's going to need to get to about 290 items. Oh, you do have a corner appearance there. And what else can we do? Yep, we can. So we seem to have done all of the end ones first, which is fine. And there we are with Pocket Verbs. You can see it's working on Pocket Verbs now. That's going to take a long time. But that's because Pocket Verbs, here we can look at the size of them too. Like here's the size of them. And we've got some of these all set, but you can see that these, and it's like a meg's worth of makefile. 68K, 63K, 64K, etc., etc., etc. But then when we finish getting Pocket Verbs, it's going to show up in here and it's going to be ginormous. The reason it takes so long is because there's so much code in it. There's all these different dedicated algorithms. I try not to make stuff like that. It's very cumbersome. It's eating up a lot of space in your DAW when from all the stuff that you're not actually using. And yeah, it's just that's going to be grinding away for a little while. In fact, that might be the point at which we leave. That, or I can just keep going, but kind of be, I don't know. Yeah, so you do like using pocket verbs anyhow? That seems good. Once it's finished doing that, it'll be kind of on its way, going a little bit more. We do have enough space for all of this, thankfully. I would like to see how big that VST is, so hopefully it'll finish up before I need to go. We shall see. Also, another nice thing about Raspberry, yeah, it's like it's getting on towards lunch for me, so I'm thinking I will have to switch out of here. But this is I'll let you know how this worked out. I'll probably need to be sorting it out a little bit. But yeah, what you were watching is the beginning of the process of putting out all of the Airwindows plugins as Linux VSTs for the Raspberry Pis, putting out ARM versions of all of these things. And they're going to be built into the, and off we go. So let's see how big Pocket Verbs was, and then we will sort of start calling it a day. I'm going to leave it going, but Pocket Verbs, 397K compared to like 67 or 72 or whatever. It is a very big program. So, on that note, I'm going to say that that is good enough for going forward today. There's going to be a bunch of more stuff there, but the next thing I'm going to be doing is like compiling, finishing up all these plugins, which could be another couple of hours, honestly. And I realized that the apt-get update stuff was cumbersome, but at least we got through and got to start to see what this recompile is. This is why dealing with the Linux situation is a lot easier than some of the other things. Like with Windows, I have manual things to do with like typing stuff and using the mouse and so on. Building stuff this Linux way with CMake means if I'm doing it properly, it will just grind through all the plugins, and I don't have to interact with that. And that is very powerful. Even though it can be a real pain to set up, it's very powerful to actually use. So if all goes well, maybe I'll make a little quick video and announce the release of all of the plugins for Raspberry Pi today or tomorrow. Tomorrow might work. I might want to just chill out for today. This has been an interesting journey, but we got there. I mean, even if it doesn't work and I try these things and they don't run in Reaper, or Reaper isn't able to find them or something like that, I bet I can get through. I bet I can finish what's begun here. But it certainly appears like it was compiling everything. And that's a good sign. That means that it's probably able to go forward from there, and we've probably just, like, we are building all of this stuff, and, you know, Infinity Chorus Ensemble isn't even out yet. This is a Raspberry Pi versions of upcoming plugins that you haven't seen yet. So on that note, and maybe I will do it that way just for giggles. On that note, I will bid you adieu, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.